Hi guys, welcome to LB24. I'm Louise White.
I'm Jessica Larry.
We have a fantastic lineup this evening on our talk show PlayItOut. We have an amazing director and producer and even actor of a film called Inspector Calls. So this is Jason Farries. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
That's all right, Jason. Thank you for coming. So let's take a look at the trailer.
Please, sir, an inspector's called.
An inspector? What kind of inspector?
I'd like some information if you don't mind, Mr. Burling.
What's going on?
I'm a police inspector, Miss Burling. This afternoon a young girl drank quite a lot of disinfectant.
Was this an accident?
No, she wanted to take her own life.
Horrible business. But I don't see why you would come here.
I've been round to the place that she had. She left a photo in a sort of diary.
Why can't you just admit that you recognise the girl in the photograph?
Getting a bit heavy-handed, are we, Inspector?
I have done nothing wrong, as well you know.
The girl has died tonight, and it's what we did that matters.
Try and turn this on us.
Well, I don't see the need to keep the inspector waiting with this.
I don't think we need to keep the inspector waiting at all.
After all, we are civilised people, not criminals.
And what a fantastic film it is. Jason, so tell me about the film.
Okay, so An Inspector Calls is set in 1912. The events of the story revolve around the Burling family. They're a wealthy family that live in the English countryside. And one night during a dinner party, they're visited by this mysterious inspector who starts asking them questions about a girl who's committed suicide. So, and then it all goes from there. They all reveal something that they've had involved with this girl. Very mysterious.
Yes.
Can I just ask, Jason, with this film, is there any particular reason why you liked this one over something else?
Okay, so this obviously was a play that was written by J.B. Priestley. So because it was such a famous play, I knew it from my previous studies and such. I watched the play while I was in Oxford one time, and it's just a gripping story. You know, it leaves a flavour with you. You know, you just you remember it so vividly, and you question the whole reality of it. So it's a fantastic one to be adapted, and it works really well with what we had, of course, for the film.
I mean, I love the fact that it's so hugely politically based as well. So, you know, the whole Victorian era that it's based on. Do you feel like there's any kind of modern day kind of relevance to it, or it can be transferred?
Absolutely. You know, like I think the message of it is very timeless. You know, you've got these great playwrights who love to give you moral messages throughout their stories, because what's a good story without a good moral?
Exactly.
You know, absolutely. So with this one, I think there's definitely a lot to talk about class and class separation. You know, there's a lot to talk about humanity and the way we treat other human beings. And I think particularly in this modern society, you know, we have to remember that we can't just step on people that we meet, you know, because everyone's got their lives and their individual paths. And, you know, we have to think about how our interactions with them, how our paths intertwine, and how it affects their futures. And it can be very negative, as we see from the film.
Of course, yes, it can be.
I think that was one of my favourite aspects, is that kind of interrelationships that they had through there. It was really good.
So my question as well for you, Jason, is where did the inspiration come from with the idea then? So what made you how did you get that concept? Where did the idea?
Well, I mean, what happened is when I first proposed making a film, it was with a friend of mine. So he became my co-producer. His name is Ben. And what Ben said to me is, I've got this lovely house that we can film in. And he showed me, and I said, you don't live there. No way do you live there. That's not real, you know.
Is it really big?
It's this big, beautiful house, you know. And I said, this is just so gorgeous. So I said, we have to make a film here. And he went, well, what?
You have to have a house party.
Yeah. Oh my God. Which is, you know, that's got to be the resulting end of it, you know. After all, because we did clamber in together when we made this film. You know, we all stayed in the house because they had so many rooms. So we were like, let's all just stay here and we'll make a movie together. And then at the end, I think we had a big barbecue. So it was like,
Sounds
ideal.
reassuring.
Exactly.
Posh barbecue.
But so because we had the house, we thought, what could we make? Because it was very Victorian house. So we're like, well, we've got to pick something to just adapt. So, we went through Oscar Wilde choices, and we went through all these different period dramas. I think Woman in Black came up, Dorian Gray. And then but we landed on an Inspector Calls because we were like, well, it's a one-room play with 7 actors. It's so easy to make, and we could do that in 3 weeks, which is what we did in the end.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Seems like having lots of fun anyway.
Oh yeah, tons.
In the film, there is, you just mentioned the 7 characters. So in the film, they play like, do they play like a, because obviously Eva Smith is the character who's the girl who's dead.
Yes.
Dead. So they are like why do they pass a picture, the inspector, sorry, one of the characters.
Yeah, there's a photograph.
That is passed around. So why isn't that shown to the audience? Why is that kept secret? Because he holds it and he shows them like this.
Yeah.
So why? What is the trick to that?
I really love this question because some people ask me all the time. They're like, "What's with the photograph? Like, can we?" And I think even at one point, Gerald and Eric, they sort of lean in to have a look, and he's sort of like, "Nope." And it's very much like the audience is doing the same thing. You're like, oh, there's even a brief moment where it flashes past, but you get blocked.
I saw that bit.
So frustrating.
I was like trying to pause that, going
like, who's the girl?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a really good story prop. It's what it does is it says that no one knows if it's the same girl.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think also Eva Smith is a wonderful metaphor because Eva Smith is one of the most common names, especially around that era.
Yeah.
Eva Smith represents everyone. It can be any girl, anyone that you meet. Eva Smith could be you, or it could be John Smith. It could be, so she's representative of anyone. So she's faceless for a reason, because she's a metaphor for the way we treat strangers.
Oh wow, that's a really good. That's brilliant. I love that idea.
It's such a good analyst.
It's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, obviously, there's a girl in the film called Sheila. She's one of the characters within the family. Now, I was really intrigued with this character because she gets everyone to talk about the death and get to open up about things. And is she the key into the secret of this death of Eva?
I would say so. I mean, she has a lot to offer. Sheila does. She does. And she's instantly, as soon as she hears about this girl's suicide, she instantly is very sympathetic.
Yes.
At no point does she try and stand there and say, it's not my fault. She instantly says, this is entirely my fault.
Yeah.
And she almost takes full responsibility on herself. Yeah. I think it's interesting when you watch each character to see how they react to it, because Mr. Burling, of course, the father, he's very much like, that's just what we do. That's business, business, darling. And but Sheila's very much like, but she's my age. She was me. It could have happened to me. So I think that's where the sympathy comes from.
Exactly.
So I think with that, with her attitude, I think she wants people to come to her because she's ready to accept the moral responsibility. Yes. And I think she wants others to as well.
Because they all open up, don't they? And you think, wow, so everyone becomes a part of it. Like, he's done this, she's done that, he's done that, and it all leads up into this big build.
It is clever.
And you think, God, how are these? And it all interlinks and how they link together. It's absolutely fantastic because
and
it keeps
it gets better, doesn't it?
It does, you're glued to the TV. It's like, I want to know, what's he done, what's she done, absolutely brilliant. So that's really intriguing and keeps you on your tiptoes as well.
Definitely.
So I really like that one, it's good.
I also really like how you could see Sybil and Arthur really couldn't relate to it at all.
Yeah.
They were just so standoffish and close to the whole concept of their responsibility.
Absolutely.
Probably Sheila, really did feel empathy because she was so close. She was the most relatable character to Eva. And I really liked the way that you displayed that. It was really clear in the film. So for me, I'm like, it was almost like, do we as a generation, like young kids, I feel like that's a bit the same with when we look at how we view certain things and our elders kind of don't.
Absolutely. It's very true. I think you're really touching on something that's very poignant today. Yeah. We've, like I said earlier, the message is timeless. Exactly. We have to take responsibility for our actions. And I think in this day and age, certainly 2018, we have this young generation that is standing up to the older generation. Certainly with things like LGBT rights, equality, feminism, certainly what's happening in America with Trump's regulations, and certainly their opinions on the gun regulations, children are leading that force. That they're standing up, and young people under 25s are going, no, actually, we're responsible for the future. You know, and I think Sheila and Eric there, they realize, they go, we were wrong, and we're looking to do better. Whereas the older generation's going, well, no, it's always been done like this, therefore it's the right way. You know, so I think there's a lot of that today, and it's nice to see that what's relevant then is certainly relevant today in 2018.
Exactly. Even when like the first kind of few minutes and they were questioning why Eva didn't get the pay rise, and they were like, I would have given it to her, and the father's like, well, you know, you don't run a business, but it wasn't about that. And that was like the cascading event that kind of led to everything else, was she lost the job because she had a voice. It's
a good comment on the patriarchal sort of society, and you know, saying, because he's saying, well, I employ all these women, but it doesn't matter, they're replaceable. You know, he treats people as disposable. And
but she was a good worker, but she found a voice, so she had to go.
And obviously the film was set in 1912, so why did you pick that era as well, Jason?
So,
why
I mean,
was it specifically set for that date?
Priestley wrote it for 1912, because I think he wrote it sometime in the, you're testing me now, I think it was the 60s, and what he was commenting on was modern society. But he did it in a way that when, actually, this is what they thought 50 years ago, so let's change that. It's 50 years later, why is it the same? But so I wanted it to be a true adaptation. We had the house which fit the era, and the story fit the era really nicely. And also, I mean, I do love a good period drama. The more accurate, the better.
What's your favourite then?
I mean, I have enjoyed Downton Abbey in a couple episodes of that, but like Jess, I enjoy Dorian Gray. You know?
I love
it's very Wildian stories are so.
What about Catherine Cookson, that sort of thing? Yeah,
oh, definitely. You know, all over that. You know, because they all dressed so nicely then as well. You know, they had this finery about them, so it's definitely an appeal.
Well, I've never read Catherine Cookson or watched Downton Abbey. My parents do. But
that's all right. Netflix. That's all there.
Love Island.
Love Island. Yeah, that's me. Sort of thing. Love Island. Big Brother. Oh my god. So yeah, Jess. Sorry.
I was just going to say, do you ever see yourself kind of making a modern day adaptation, or do you kind of like sticking to that particular eras and the classics?
I mean, I would love to do a modern adaptation of this. There's so many ways you can go with it. I mean, you can change the characters ever so slightly so that their arcs are the same, but perhaps they have different methods of doing it. You know, because of course. I had in mind that Mr. Burling works in some sort of cotton industry, and we could update that. We could say that he works in some sort of modern sort of retail-based operation. Absolutely. You just change it up slightly so that it fits in context, because the message stays the same.
Yeah, exactly.
But the characters can be brought forward. And whether it makes it more poignant, it's all the better for it. So I'd 100% be on for that.
It would be great to see something.
It would be.
Next one, next idea. I like it. Just also like giving any, like, if you could go back, is there anything that you would like to change?
Anything I'd like to change. I mean, I was really satisfied with everything because we weren't expecting it. We were on such a low budget and such a tight time frame, and everyone very generously put into this project. So I was extremely satisfied and proud of what we achieved.
3 weeks, that's amazing.
3 weeks of filming, and we really nailed it as well, because we got crunch time in the last day was reshooting things we might have got wrong.
Oh, wow.
And it was mad. We didn't finish until like midnight on that night, and then we had to take everything apart on the set. So, everyone scrapped in, and we had moments where it was hard and it was nail biting, but actually everyone really enjoyed the experience, and I mean, fingers crossed everyone enjoyed it. I did. I know I did. So I think the only thing is, if I could go back and change it, I would pay everyone millions of pounds just because they deserve it. As soon as I've got lots of money, I'll just throw it out, because I don't care. As long as I get the film at the end.
Your house next time, the film.
My house, exactly. And I'll do all the barbecue and stuff.
Who was the best character to work with then, Jason? Who was the funniest to work with out of them all?
It's like picking favourites. It's
like
how do you pick your favourite child, You tell them in front of the other kids, of course. No. No, of course, I think everyone was really wonderful. Mr. Burling is played by my dad.
Oh, is that your dad? that?
Yeah, so
oh my God.
it's again like
Wow.
people pitched in, and Dad he's not acted before, and
He
he
did
did
brilliant.
such a wonderful
Really?
job.
Yeah,
so
did
he was really
brilliantly.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
pleasure working with my dad.
I bet so, yeah, it's nice.
And also, I mean, Ben, who was the co-producer, he was
Yeah.
one of the actors as well.
Yeah.
He was just fun to be on set. You know,
Which actor was?
he played Eric.
Okay.
And he was just
Yes.
cheeky.
Yeah, you know,
and
you got
because
that
it was
sense
his
at
house,
all.
he was very at home. You know, he
I
was
know,
very
like
he's-
banging his
yeah.
head.
Yeah, he was banging against the
okay,
wall. I was
yeah,
thinking, oh my God, because in the
Yeah.
film, that makes me think, what has he done? Because I thought he was the one who killed her at first, because he gets really distressed. And I think,
God, I
oh,
know.
he's the one.
It
Like,
does.
he's killed her.
I put that in because
Yeah.
it was a nice break. You know,
Yeah.
you have this reveal from Gerald, which
Yeah.
spoilers, and then, and then you have this
Yeah.
this break where you come out of the room just for a
Yeah.
minute, just to see Eric is tormented by something which you're not
Yes.
expecting because
Yes.
he's so
Yeah.
elated, he's so charming.
Well, exactly,
You know,
yeah.
yeah.
And it was...
Yeah,
No offense.
exactly. You know, he's been on one of these.
He's probably at home watching the football right
yeah,
now.
he's
He
probably
probably
watching
is.
the England match
Yeah,
tonight.
we're all missing the footy.
We're all missing it, yes. But yeah, that's where I want to follow on from that, because it's set in 2 rooms, isn't it? You've got one in the dining room or
Yeah.
one in the bedroom. So why did you stick to those 2 rooms? Was there a reason for that, or did you?
So, well, we wanted to take
Yeah.
advantage of the space that we had.
Okay, yeah.
But because it is someone's house, people lived there. You know,
Yeah.
the family lived there. So. Before we rearranged all the furniture in the dining room,
Yeah.
it had sofas in, and it had all like the coffee table and
Yeah.
photo frames, and we were like, okay, well, we obviously need to move all of that out and put in like the actual period stuff.
Yeah.
And if you notice, there's a piano in the corner of the room.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, but we couldn't move it.
Oh.
We couldn't
Why?
move it.
All those
'cause it was
muscles?
so
Why?
heavy. I mean, like, I wish I could lift a piano by
Yeah.
myself, you know. But it just
Hercules.
it didn't happen. So we rotated it slightly to make it
Ah.
fit within the room.
Within the theme of the movie as well, and with the setting.
Yeah. So, but the rest of the house
Yeah.
had that similar problem. So, obviously, the dining room was key.
Yeah.
But we had a bedroom that was already period style.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit in a corridor which we feel is just outside the door of the living room, so
Yeah.
it's like so tight you can't even tell. But the rest of the house has got TVs and modern sort of
All
kitchen
modern.
counters. So you're like, that doesn't seem like 1912.
Can I just rip that all
You know?
off? and, like,
Exactly.
for my
I don't think the
film?
family
Is
would
that
enjoy
okay?
that. you
Yeah,
know?
no, I
Let's
didn't think
start
so.
again. So in terms of your film, Jason,
Yeah.
Who inspires you in terms of director-wise? So who would you like to work with? I know you're a director yourself, but who would inspire you to work with? Like, my favourite director is Steven Spielberg. I'd love to work with him, but who would be yours?
I mean,
to, like,
Spielberg
produce?
is fantastic, you know.
That isn't it?
But I do
Yeah.
love people like Chris Nolan. I mean,
yes.
Christopher Nolan, he's
Yeah.
really committed to the business, and I aspire to have that level of sort of perfectionist, you know,
Yes,
because.
yeah.
Because you are nitpicky about art, especially your own
Yeah, okay.
personal stuff, you know.
Of course,
And I watch Inspector Calls, and naturally you see mistakes. You know,
Yeah.
if you paint on a canvas, you're going to go, oh, I wish I'd done that differently.
Yes,
but
yeah.
you know, art is not art if it's perfect. You know,
Exactly.
so
It's the imperfections.
it's the imperfections that make it unique.
Exactly.
But Chris
Yeah.
Nolan's very inspirational. He does dark films, he does twisted
Yeah.
films,
Yeah.
and certainly, you know, I'm very much inspired by films with a twist. You know, I love Ex Machina. Is such a
yes,
wonderful film, you know,
yeah.
and that was a low budget 1-room film as well.
Yeah.
So when I think back to that, I'm like,
Yeah.
they achieved a lot. You know, obviously they had a much bigger budget than we did,
That
and these
doesn't
big
matter,
famous
same quality.
actors, you know.
Yeah.
But it's examples of films
It's got your dad in it.
where
You
it's
know.
got daddy in it,
It's got daddy,
exactly.
yes,
Come on.
So,
Yeah, it's got meaning.
yeah, so these films, the
Yeah.
best films that we watch are not
Yeah.
the ones with the big budgets. They're not
Yeah,
the ones with the huge special effects. They're the ones that leave a mark on us
Yeah, of
because they
course.
communicate something with us that is beyond our comprehension. You know,
Yeah.
they're universally accepted as human ideas. So
Yeah, yeah.
everyone is like, wow, that's affected me. And I think that's what's great about Inspector Calls as a story.
It shifted dynamics of thought
Yeah,
processes.
yeah.
you know,
So directors like that certainly
Yeah.
do, but Spielberg is definitely on the list.
Oh,
I mean,
he's a legend, isn't
I
he?
mean, you can hire me, Spielberg.
Jurassic Park is the best, isn't it?
Oh, so good! It's so good.
But yeah,
I can't watch anything scary. Honestly, I really can't.
So following on from that, in terms of, have you got anything up and coming as well after an Inspector Calls? Have you got anything that's going to be up and coming? Have you got anything planned as well?
Absolutely. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's not a one-hit wonder. If you, I hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So because
not.
the you know, it's such a pleasure. to make films and to work with actors and to work with all these filmmakers because everyone in the industry loves what they do. You know, and we don't do it. We don't make films to make money. We make money from films to make more films. You know, that's what we do. So that's where I sort of want to go on. So in terms of what's in the pipeline, I've got a little bit of a TV pilot coming up.
Ooh. Can you tell us more about that? Or you're not
it's a bit of a hush-hush. So I don't want to give too much away. But it is like between us girls. It's another period drama, and you know, because we sort of had some resources left over that we were like, let's shift them in. But we've got a little bit more money for that one, and we're hoping that what we do is we pitch that and we pick it up, and then we can be making a series, which would be another area for us. But I also have ideas for features that are originals, because as I love adaptations, but I'd like to throw in my own ideas to the mix.
I think you'd be good on the BBC, Jason.
I would love to.
I'm sure you will be amazing. You'll be amazing. But that comes to my last question, actually. So, obviously, you mentioned about being funded. Did you film the Inspector Calls? Did you put your own budgets into it, or was it? Have you asked for funding?
Yeah, so it was really, obviously indie filmmaking is, the budget is the main issue that everyone has. You know, when you start making a film, you go, how much money do we have and what can we spend? And for me, it was very much like, we have nothing. So I think in total, we spent about £2,000. Which is nothing, you know, in the grand scheme, it doesn't buy you anything. But the way, exactly, it makes you very creative. So the way that we got around that is we did very clever things. And for any indie filmmakers watching, just a couple of tips that we used. So I got, my sister made a few costumes for us.
Oh, wow.
So the dresses.
Is she a costume designer?
She's a costume designer,
Oh,
exactly.
Wow.
So
your family is extremely talented.
Adoption. We've got a
filmmaker, actor, costume designer, exactly. So you know, use people that you know who are just as enthusiastic about the process. You know, so we were lucky to have the house because the friend lived in it. We were very lucky to have the costume designer, so she made 2 dresses for us. Wow. Because the dresses were hard to get hold of.
Did she make Sheila's?
She made Sheila's and
gorgeous.
Mrs. Burley's.
I literally, when I saw that dress, I was like,
it's so nice. I still have it if you...
Hey, girl.
There we go. So, Jennifer, your work's appreciated.
Hey, Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Make it for 4'11" people.
And that was what sort of got us a lot of free little bits. Everyone worked volunteer. And what we said is, like, guys, we're just going to live at the house, so no one has to travel. We stayed in the house, and we sort of bunked together. There was a big room upstairs. There was like a dorm. So, like, there was about 15 of us in there, and we were just like, this is like big sleepover, you know? So, it was fun, but we had it was working, and it was so passionate about it. Everyone was like, no, it's 8 a.m. we start filming, and at 6 p.m. we'd finish, and then we'd all have dinner together at the dining room, you know.
Oh wow! So
and
it was
like
a family.
Yeah, it was so nice, and it was the middle of June, so the weather was beautiful. We all sat outside. We'd sit on the grass.
Was it June? Not. It was last year, June.
Last June, exactly. So it's been a year. I mean, we filmed it last year. We released it this year on the 1st of June.
Oh, right.
So it's been out for about a month now. Okay. And in that year's process, so much has just come together and come out of it. And, you know, moving forward, it's definitely benefited me. I've found some success off the back of it. And I know that my actor friends and cinematographers, they found it really fantastic as well, because they show people and they're like, we made this for basically nothing.
It's amazing.
And it was just a passion project. So things like this, I think, are great for first-time filmmakers, you know, because you need to show people what you can do. So the first step is just make your film. Doesn't matter if it's the worst thing you ever make, but once you make one, you're on the flow, you're on the board, so you start going, you know, and that's what we're sort of doing.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Where can we catch this movie then? So where can we catch the film?
So it's available on YouTube. We've gone public with it because everyone can watch it. Many GCSE students study an Inspector Calls for their English literature. So we thought it's a great device for them in their studies. It's very accurate to the original play.
Yeah.
So it's on YouTube. Just type in an Inspector Calls.
Yeah.
You should be able to
It's on
find
YouTube,
it.
guys. Yeah.
And yeah, I think we've had almost 10,000 hits already.
10,000 hits.
Yeah,
That's
in
amazing.
the
I
month
did
it's
flick
been
it
out.
over to my friends to watch,
Wonderful.
so
So thank you, it's Jess.
Inspector Calls, YouTube, 10,000. Let's get to
Hashtag
20,000.
it, share it, you know.
Yeah, hashtag share it. Yeah, get it all out there.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we want. Because in the end, we didn't make this to make money. We made it for people to watch. You know, we're entertainers, and that's what we want from it. You know.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you so much, guys.
We loved having you on the show, and we really look forward to seeing all the new projects that you're coming up. And Jennifer, I look forward to seeing my dress soon.
We will, Jennifer.
Hi, Dad.
Name dropping that.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. It's been great, and
It's
all
been
the
an
best to
absolute
you.
pleasure,
Yeah, it's
guys.
been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
It's been so much fun. I love it when it's fun. So thank you. All the best, and thanks, guys, and tune in next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.